Welcome back to Culture Reset and part 2 of my conversation with Claire McColgan, Director of Culture for Liverpool and the City region. In the first part, Claire revealed lots of fascinating insights from the early years of Liverpool's cultural renaissance. We're moving on now to more recent times, and first we'll hear about Eurovision and how Liverpool's experience is helping to shape the way other major events are delivered around the country.
It's interesting. I've just come back I was in London yesterday at a round table around major events with the ministers, and we talked about that model of how we did Eurovision, which was the city taking full responsibility for the city. So we did the village, the welcome, all of those great things, all the commissions, all of that work, and that relationship with Ukraine, from city, especially with us with Odessa, but also with Ukrainian citizens in the UK. Government did the bit that was the very political, because remember we were working with a country that was at war, and we were working with them, not to them. So we'd have meetings that were incredible. We'd have regular calls with the government in Ukraine and also the broadcaster, because it's all Eurovision's broadcaster to broadcaster, so it's the broadcasters that put it on. But we were working very closely with our minister, Stuart Andrews at the time, and also the minister in Ukraine, who was the culture minister in Ukraine. And then there was the ambassador, and it goes on. And there was one moment where we sat there and we had the chief executive of the city council and the leader of the city council and the mayor of the city region, Steve Rotherham, and the director general of the BBC, and also a really great contingent from the UK who were putting this show on behalf of Ukraine. And we're all in our offices and they're in a bunker, with their flag behind, but in a bunker in Ukraine. And you just think, and it kind of goes to that thing about soft power. It was really important to them. Us doing a good job on behalf of Ukraine was so important to Ukrainian government but then that does put a whole other level of complexity and pressure on an event. But I think that's why the BBC chose Liverpool, because we knew we could always do Eurovision really well. I mean, Liverpool is Eurovision. If you kind of put both together,
we love Eurovision.
Oh my goodness, yeah!
Is it Eurovision?
It's a party city. It's a proper sparkling city, isn't it? It's got a sense of humour and it's brilliant. So if you said which city is Eurovision in the UK, you would say Liverpool. But I think that combination of the compassion in this city and the party nature worked so well for Eurovision. I don't know any other place that could have done it as well. And I mean that genuinely, because everyone got into it, whether you like Eurovision or not. And that doesn't happen everywhere. Some places are more cynical. Some people have more reticent communities that aren't so vocal or so welcoming. And that's not me being horrible about other places. It's just different in Liverpool.
I think it's true.
It's really different. And artists know that. Jean-Luc, who's the director of Royal Deluxe, always said it's like Chile. He said, there's only one place like Liverpool. I can't do a French accent, it would be embarrassing. But he said, there's only one place like Liverpool, and that's Chile. And I was like, hello, why? And he was like, because they have passion and they tell you what they think, and it's just like a joy to work in. And it's not a very English city, Liverpool, sometimes. It's not very reserved.
I wonder if it's the Irish. But anyway, that's theory. But everyone talks to you. I've made best friends who hug me on a 15-minute train journey from Liverpool to where I live in Crosby. It's just an amazing spirit in Liverpool, isn't it? Friendliness and openness.
Yeah, and also, it's about people telling you what they think all the time, whether you want to hear it or not.
When I was a radio journalist and asked to do a vox pop on something, I got called quite a lot because Liverpool was just so easy to do a vox pop. You go out in Manchester, I'm sorry Manchester, but you go out with a microphone and people would hide. But you go out in Liverpool, people flock to you. What you doing?
Exactly.
What do you want me to say? It's so easy because everyone wanted to talk. Yeah. So anyway, that's my personal reflection. But Claire, coming back to you, we talked a lot about all the events and everything, but on our podcast, we like to talk about the culture of what it's like to work somewhere, or in this case, possibly to live somewhere as well. And I think it would relate to the spirit of the city. In what way do the arts and culture impact on what it feels like to live and be in Liverpool, the spirit of the city? How does it have an effect?
I think it's huge here because it's a very cultural city without anything we put on. It always has been. I think what's been very interesting for me working for the city council for such a long time is obviously you've got to argue your case during budgets. So budgets in Liverpool have been really very, very tight for the last 15 years. And there's not been spare money around. So if you're going to support culture and the arts, you've got to have a really, really, really good argument for doing that. We've always done, because at the end of the day, when you're looking at what to do and what not to do, the argument that we've always put forward is a very economic one. So we know that if we fund culture, you get £9 back in other money to our investment. Then also it's £12 back in economic impact or return. So we get that, and I think Liverpool people get that. They understand that the reason why the city centre has grown the way that it has is because we've consistently worked on a very clear strategy about increasing footfall really in the city centre. So people get that. I think what the politicians get, and that's why I'm really blessed to be here really, is they get the emotional connection that people have with the culture. So with councils, if you don't need adult social care and you don't need children's, that's that lucky you for a start. But also you want to have a city, you want to live in somewhere that is fabulous. Everyone has the right to that. You want to live somewhere where you can walk into a free festival, or you can go to bars and there's someone playing music, or everyone wants that wherever you live. You want your place to be brilliant. That's basically that pride. Everyone deserves that. And I think what Liverpool's City Council have done really well is invest in that the other that the council does. So not adults, not children's. They've obviously invested in that really well, but they've also thought about the other. And I'm really proud that's happened here for 20 years, because I wouldn't still be here. Why would you want to live somewhere that didn't have that? You didn't walk somewhere and there's a musician. Why would you, if you had the choice to live somewhere, you choose to live where I live, which is near the centre of Liverpool? Why wouldn't you? And I think that councils, when they get that right, do really well. And when they don't, you end up with dead high streets and all of those things that we know that are happening in towns actually across the country.
And we see it in the tourism numbers, don't we? The visitors that come flocking in with their suitcases every Friday, rattling down the cobblestones.
I know, and I just love that. I feel really, if someone had put a camera on the pier head over the last 20 years, I think they would have seen a really different sight, wouldn't they? So not just when they come off the train, when they come off the cruise liners, and that difference where Liverpool has become a real tourist hotspot, and people just are still, and actually there's less surprise now when they come. So for years it'd be like, oh, it's so surprising, it's so beautiful, and it's so da 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 da, and now there's less of that because people come back. So they come once and then they'll come again for a weekend, and they'll come more. And then interestingly for me, because I'm at the age now where loads of my friends and people who I talk to are sending their kids here to uni, and that they'll stay, if half of them stay, that's brilliant. And then our kids here, my daughter, that's why I talk about generation change. She's 24 now and she is back in Liverpool, and she's brought up here and went away to Leeds and has come back, and she wants her career here because she's like, why would I want to move anywhere else? There's no, why would I? And that's a generational change, because we know people my age left Liverpool. They left because there was nothing here for them. Whereas that generation is now coming back and filling our streets with all their youthfulness and brilliance, which is exactly what you want.
Great for mum too.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, of course it is.
Yeah, so the impact on the spirit of Liverpool is pride, sense of belonging, wanting to be here, as you say. What about in the council? The fact that the council has this big focus on the arts, how does that affect the culture within?
I think it's really interesting with Liverpool City Council because we're sort of an anomaly. So I've been there a long time, but I'm probably actually been there the longest now in terms of the management structure of the City Council. There's probably about 3 of us who've been there at the same time, and we get lots, we've had some brilliant chief executives and leadership within the council, and they come in a lot of the time and are just like, how is it? There's always a bit like, why is it so important in some ways, especially if they come from outside the city and come into the city. And it takes them a couple of months to go, oh, I get it. And then they get it, because it's not the same. The way that we talk about culture and we deal with culture in Liverpool City Council is not the same anywhere else in the country. And I work with a lot of councils across the country, so I know that. But I think what what it's done is because it kind of, the work that we do influences teams across the council. So whether that's neighbourhoods, where, you know, we're working within neighbourhoods at the moment with a brilliant woman called Nikki Butterworth, and her world is pretty, you know, it's cleaning the bins, it's sorting the streets out, it's making sure your neighbourhood is decent. But she completely gets the value that culture can add to that. So the work that we've done on Flower Streets in Kirkdale, all of that work she completely gets. So it's like easy in Liverpool, and other places are seeing that now and want it. So I'm just doing so there's a job out at the moment for Bradford that I'm helping them with, get someone great in, because they just look at Liverpool and they want what we've got now in 20 years' time. They want it sooner than that, but they kind of see how we've invested in this as a council.
Because they've just had their city of culture, haven't they?
They've just had their city of culture, and they've seen the legacy that Liverpool's done since theirs, and they want that for their place. So they've kind of taken that from us. But I also think as well, when you've got a team like we have who've been there for a long time and know how to get things done within the council, like our team was the team that stepped up during COVID. So we did all the kind of volunteering, the research programme, all of the stuff where you had to mobilise people quite quickly and you had a deadline. The culture team, you know, took off their yellow vests and put those down and picked up their COVID kind of work stuff and delivered all the kind of outward facing stuff for COVID, because they knew how to do an event. So you knew how to, you know, get food parcels to people, all those things that you know, mass testing, all of that stuff that we did during COVID, that team did. So there is a real interesting, I think, mentality about the culture team that is not the same in other parts of the council, but I think that kind of bleeding through is there. So that, you know, we work till it's done, and we work hard and we play hard is absolutely core to that team. And loads of them have been with me for, oh gosh, now 30 years. Maybe not that long. When did we do Capital Culture? But since we did Capital Culture, a huge amount of that team have stayed because the work's brilliant.
So you want to spread that love of coming to work throughout the council, presumably.
Yeah, and it's changing. The council's changed a lot in the last couple of years, so a lot of that is coming through. And also, you know, you want to kind of bring on the next generation as well. That, for me, that's really important. You've got to be thinking about who's, you know, holding the door open for the next generation. And you see a lot of younger people now working in the council, which I'm really delighted about. And we're bringing a lot of younger people through because they're the ones that will be doing this in 20 years' time, not me. So you've got to kind of, and it's that flexibility. It's funny, isn't it? You know, this whole thing about flexible work, and we've always been really flexible in my world because you have to be, because you're working nights. So therefore you take the next morning. So there's always been a very different approach, I think, to management within culture than there has been in other parts of the council. And that's because we come from a different background. You know, I come from a community arts and arts background. But yeah. But we work within a council.
So another guest on Culture Reset was your colleague, Jackie McKinley, Chief Operating Officer. And so she talked about culture internally and how they were working really hard on improving it, basically, and making people proud to be part of the City Council. A lot has happened, hasn't it, in the last few years? So presumably she'll be looking to you and your team to say, you know, how can we do this better?
Yeah, and you know, lots happened in the last few years, but lots happened in Liverpool City Council for the last 20 years. I mean, it's the whole story in its own. It's a whole book, a whole story in its own right.
Life.
Oh, exactly. All working life. You know, it's never been dull. That's what I always kind of say about Liverpool City Council. It's never ever been dull. But I think that culture change, you've got to bring in, the world is changing on how the way people work, and they want, especially younger people, they don't necessarily want a 9 to 5 and have that thing that kind of my generation had. And in Culture Liverpool, we've never wanted that. It's never been 9 to 5. It's always been really odd hours and, again, working hard and playing hard. So yes, I think the council are looking at all of that. And it's working because we're getting a lot of young people in. But yeah, Liverpool City Council, it's not just been the last 5 years. It has always been a bit bonkers.
Yes, they're going to act as another podcast. Actually,
it's a whole of that. It's probably a whole series of podcasts. Yeah.
And you've been awarded the MBE and then more recently the CBE, and you're now working at a national level, helping the government come up with an event strategy. What's that all about, and what's that say about you and Liverpool?
I think because we've done it, I think it's easy, isn't it? Because there's lots of we've just shown what it can do. So for me, if you can do what we've done in 20 years in Liverpool and make the difference that we've done in my world, I'm not saying everything's perfect in Liverpool, but I am saying the work that we do, I'm really proud of. And it has been tough. We have worked with no budget for a very long time. We have had quite a lot of changes in the management team of the city council. It's changed, I think, 3, 4, 5 times in my time there. So you've always got to convince the next person, and that's pretty tough. But the resilience, I think, of the whole team, and actually the politicians, no matter which politicians we've had in, they've always got it. They've always got the value of culture. And I think nationally politicians get that. And if I was a politician, I'd be looking at Liverpool going, how have they developed under such tremendous difficulty? So lack of, European money going, terrible budget settlement for the last 15 years, massive changes in leadership, but they've still got this thing that has driven the city forward. And I think that's what's exciting now. I think you've got a government that is looking at Liverpool to learn from, because you've got places that have been forgotten. And the Town of Culture is a really good example of that. It's the Town of Culture competition and the City of Culture competition. It is incredible the government's gone with that, but the absolute outpouring of excitement around that should show government that culture is important. And I keep saying, you can talk about any initiative you want, but if people aren't excited by it, why? In some ways, why bother? And Town of Culture and City of Culture really excites normal people who aren't interested in politics or aren't interested in that. They're proud of their place. So I think government are learning, but Liverpool's always, it's never boring. It's not a terrible strapline, but I've never been bored here. So whenever there's something else that's come up that I think, oh, maybe, and then something else happens in Liverpool and you're like, that's better. That's more exciting. That's more interesting. And it's good because I've got such history here now. I'm kind of trusted to make judgments that probably, 20 years ago, people would have gone, that's a bit bonkers. Don't do that.
Well, now, CBE and everything you've achieved under your belt over all the years now,
it's not just, yeah, no, it's the pace of it, isn't it? But actually behind me, I go back to that team and that ethos of work. I've got a whole team who care passionately about what they do. I couldn't do this by myself. What did the government say? Pulling levers, nothing. When we ask for something to happen, it happens. We do it because we trust in each other that we're doing the right thing for the city. And it's always been about the city. It's never been about anything else. It's about how you take this place that was 30 years ago, was treated really badly, and make sure that it's stable. And I feel like it is now.
Have you got any other ambitions left in terms of events or things that happen culturally in Liverpool?
I feel like it's gone sort of full, in some ways it's sort of full circle. It's odd for me because I'm a real fighter, and I don't feel like I need to fight so much anymore for Liverpool, because I think it's up there with its sparkly shoes on and its shoulders held high and its head held high. You don't ever feel the same when you're talking about it nationally as you used to. It's really well respected. And I think what needs to happen now is other industries need to step into that space. So all the work that's going on around the Knowledge Quarter, the work that we're doing around regeneration, all of that kind of now feels like it's more settled, and it feels like Liverpool's sort of got much more mature in its approach to kind of how it operates. So, but for me, 2028, it's 20 years since Capital of Culture, and it's a generation that were born that had known nothing else. So we're doing a whole program that we're gonna that will be about generation culture. So a generation that have only grown up knowing Liverpool the way that it is, known Liverpool the way that it's talked about, the way that it is. They don't remember the 80s. That's my generation. So we want to really build on that and then look as to what's the future. So I'm very excited about 2028, but that feels like it's full circle for me.
Amazing. Can't wait for that. Great. And who will we see on the roof of St George's Fall, I wonder?
Football, maybe. You've got Euros, so you might. I'm going back to football. With the football on it.
We're going to have to round this up, aren't we? But I have got one final question for you. So someone's wanting to come to Liverpool, maybe for a weekend, and they want to experience the arts, fantastic culture. What should they do? When should they come?
I'd come with my tourism hat on, I'd be saying, come during when it's quieter in January because the hospitality sector, it's good for them. I think the summer is always amazing in Liverpool, isn't it? When the ships are in and you can just wander down through the waterfront and through Hope Street and do all of that, and then go out to Sefton Park and do the Beatles tour and go out to Penny Lane and do all of that, go out to Anfield. I think what's going to happen, which is also exciting, is you've got all these towns across Merseyside now bidding for town of culture. So I've seen all the Bootle stuff starting to come through, and Birkenhead and all the others, and you kind of think the potential is there. Like the work we're doing in Southport this year will hopefully give Southport that injection of adrenaline that it needs to kind of do the next 5 years, because we're putting a massive events program on in Southport. There's Lightport, which is in February, and it's just gorgeous, Southport. But you kind of in some ways need a reason to go there. If you've at the moment, you just need a reason to go there. It's sort of lost its way in terms of why you would go to Southport. You used to go for shopping, didn't you, when I first came to Liverpool? So we're doing a load of work on Lord Street to get people back into Lord Street. So some of the big events that you've seen in Liverpool, we're doing Big Lightport in February. So I would say to tourists this year, spend a day in Liverpool. I mean, you can spend 3 days in Liverpool, can't you, in the centre? But then get on a train, go to Southport, take part in the circus weekend that they're doing in May, or go for Lightport in February, or go in, at the end of the year when we're doing a big book festival, or go to the events that they do anyway and experience that place, because it's 30 minutes on the train, it's not far. And then again, when you see the work that's coming through places like Birkenhead, I'm trying to remember all of the Birkenhead, it's all the B's, Birkenhead and Bootle, their excitement around culture, I love it. It's just growing, isn't it? And I think probably just going back to your earlier question about what excites me, I feel very confident about Liverpool now, but there's that frisson, if there's that right word, frisson, whatever the right word is for that, in Southport, in Bootle, in Birkenhead, in St Helens, in Prescott, in those areas, in Widnes and Runcorn are doing amazing work this year. There's that little thing that there was in Liverpool where you just, that spark, and it just needs that spark ignited, I think, across the city region. And we just have we'd have a 2-week holiday, wouldn't you? You don't need just a weekend. Yeah, exactly, 2-week holiday.
That's not brilliant. So spreading the Liverpool, the power that has happened in Liverpool through the arts and the culture throughout the city region is fantastic to hear. So
well, it's just neat. It's just. I always think it's really interesting for me as well, because now I'm part of the city region team. It's like it has ignited all that, because again, the people who run the councils and they're really busy. They're busy people. They're dealing with adult social care and children. They are busy. They've got to get the day-to-day business of the council done. But then you come in with these ideas, and again, it's just so exciting to see those places embrace culture in the way that they're starting to embrace it, but not just and I mean this in the greatest way. Remember, I've worked for a council for 30 years, but not in a council way. So not in a quite, this is what we do, but in a really different way. I mean, you heard Marion Atkinson, I don't know if people saw her stuff on Bootle where she talked about elbows out for Bootle. I just loved it. I was like, exactly that. So I think this next year with the Town of Culture competition for our region is going to be really exciting.
Brilliant. Can't wait. So much to look forward to, even now after everything that's happened. We are going to have to wind it up, sadly, but thank you so much, Claire McColgan, Director of Culture and Major Events for Liverpool, and as we've just been hearing, for the wider city region. And thank you for listening. You can find out more on the podcast page. We're going to put some links on there so you can find out about tourism, arts, events throughout the city region and the things that are coming up. And you can listen again to our other brilliant guests on Culture Reset. And so it's goodbye from me, Caroline Kenyon, with my wonderful guest, Claire.
Oh, thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much. Goodbye.